Hi, Samantha here from Crafting Teas and welcome to today's video. In this video I'm going to be sharing how I took my kids' artwork here and I put this artwork onto a bespoke memory quilt using HappyFabric transfers. So for this project you will need some of your children's artwork, a little bit of a plan for the dimensions so that you know how much fabric to buy. You will also need your fabric. I've got two pieces from the IKEA range here. I've got a double sheet and I've got a pillowcase, both in 100% cotton. And then you need a blanket. I've gone for a fleece blanket here and that's to put inside your quilt. You will also need your general sewing supplies, and I'm going to be using my sewing machine for this project. Finally, I'll be using my Cricut mini press for this project, and I've got a pair of scissors that are non-sewing scissors to cut out my transfers. So I'm just now going to take my sheets and I'm going to put them through on a pre-wash in the washing machine just to make sure that there aren't any dressings or anything that will stop my transfer from adhering to the textile. So the first thing I need to do is I need to get all of my daughter's gorgeous artwork out of the frames, and I'm going to scan this in today so that I've got a copy. Equally you can photograph it too, but I'm going to get this scanned in. It's so cute and so vibrant. Look at this little avocado. He looks so cute. I've stuck them on some paper here. I've put them through the scanner and I'll just show you this. This is a copy here on my laptop, and look at that little avocado. I've made sure there's enough space around it, but equally I want to make the most of that transfer. So I'm just going to get on, scan the rest in, and I'll be back. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get all of my images onto the site. So I've gone to happyfabrictransfers.co.uk and I'm going to be producing something a little bit like this with lots of bright images on. I'm going to press get started and here it's going to come up with all of the products that I can select. So I'm going to go for this one here, which is the Ultra Color Max 55 by 55. I'm going to click on design and then I'm going to add an ultra color heat transfer design. So here I've got all of my kids' images here that I'm going to put onto my heat transfer design. So if I just choose one here, so this one there, as you can see it's imported it in, and the next thing I want to do, because I want all of my images to be about 15 centimeters square, is I'm going to move it down so you can see that this is going to fit just in my 15 by 15 squares. So I'm going to just go and put all my images on to my heat transfer, and then I'm going to come back to you before I press send. Okay, so I have got everything now on the HappyFabric transfer page, and I'm going to just do a little zoom in on this because it's been fantastic to put all of these on here, and I've just taken one of them so you can see that you get the dimensions of your image on your transfer sheet. You know exactly. Now what I really like about this little image that I've just highlighted, there's a little bar here on the left hand side which tells me what the quality is like. So some of them, which were my daughter's drawings, that what I'd done is I'd scanned them in on my home printer and I transferred them, and some of them really just needed to be tiny. For some of these images I have cut them out, so I've gone into a program called Ibis Paint 2, which is free to download and you can get just 1 hour for free per day. And I've gone through it and I've used a lasso tool even. That's a lasso tool to go through and cut out my images, save them down, and it just means that I can fit more on the page. So I'm so excited. I'm going to press buy now and hopefully this will come through and I'll show you when it's all printed out. My order has now shipped and it's going to be with me within 1 business day. So look what's arrived in the post. My transfers have come. It's less than 24 hours since I ordered them, and the courier's just delivered my parcel. So let's get this unboxed. And let's have a look at these transfers. So here are all of my kids' artwork, all on my 55 square, along 90 plus designs on it. And I feel a little bit emotional about this because it's my kids' work on here, and I just know how many hours they've actually spent doing this. It's primarily my year 6 girl, but then also I put a few on here which are for my preschooler too, and she's graduating from preschool this summer as well, so really kind of a bit emotional. And I'm really impressed on the quality of this. You can see on some of these that there's some tiny little details. So what I've done is I've taken some of her designs, say like this avocado here, and I've done him teeny tiny. So that's my hand in comparison. Done him teeny tiny here, and then I've done him a little bit bigger here, so you can see the design for a little bit of contrast there too. So let's have a look at some of these really tiny ones. So there's a little Cornish bear that she's done, and this is in some graphic felt tip pens. And then we've got it super teeny tiny as well, and I'm amazed at the quality. The quality's come out so well, so I'm really excited to get this on her quilt. Okay, so my bed linen is all washed and ironed and ready for me to cut out. I'm going to cut these out into 25 centimetre squares, and then I'm going to apply my heat transfer to them before I make them into my memory quilt. So I've got my white here, and for the squares that don't have heat transfer on, I'm going to use pink. Right, okay, so that is my very last transfer that I've cut out, and I'm going to put them all into piles so we can start to get rid of all the rubbish as well and start to look at applying these. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I need to get this design, which is the original artwork, and I've got it as lots and lots of tiny little watermelons. They are just so cute. So I'm going to get these and I'm going to lay them onto my piece of fabric that's already been pre-pressed, and I am going to create a little pattern which I think would be really nice for this kind of artwork. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to heat press with a piece of greaseproof paper, and I'm going to stick my heat transfers to my fabric. So for this I'm using the 2-dot on my Cricut heat press. You can also use the easy press for this, and that would be on 145 for a 12-second hold, and we recommend a medium press with a firm hold. Okay, so there we go. I pressed these. I'm going to give it a little bit of a waft, and I'm going to leave it to cool, and hopefully when I take the carriers off, I'm going to get this one looking exactly the same. Peel. It's quite satisfying actually taking them off. I'm going to have a quick look at how my original artwork looks with my transfer. And oh my gosh, you can just see the quality, and you can see that those vivid, strong colours are present in the heat transfer. I think it looks fab, absolutely. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pin together my squares before I sew them. So I've put a mark here, the little purple mark, on the edges so that I've measured the 25 centimetres with a tape, and I've got these little purple dots in the corner, and I have made sure that my pieces are not face to face, so when I open them up they will actually look like they are a quilt square. So just to give them a little sense check, I'm putting one in the middle and I'm just putting a pin at the end as well. So I've just got those 3 pins there, and I'm just going to carry on doing that so that I can start to sew. I'm currently putting my pieces together, so all those 3 panels that I've created, I'm putting them together. I'm just going to show you my setup on the machine. I've got a 2 stitch here, which is a middle stitch, which I find is more accurate, and I'm using 3.5 long and a 3.5 on the width, and I'm stitching with that stitch, putting my pieces together, and I'm stitching down to my little purple dot. So as you can see, I've got a little purple dot, and that is matching the purple dot here on my other piece, and I'm going to stitch to my purple dot, and I'm going to do a little bit of a reverse over here just to lock it in, because when I actually get these pressed and ready to put together, I'll find that some of these need a little trim around the edges, and if I've already got these stitched together, I know that I can trim them and they're all locked in place, and it's starting to get together. It looks so fab there. You can see the designs. Once I've got them all stitched together, I'm going to give them a little press, and once I've got those seams pressed, I'll stitch them together, and then we've finally got that one big piece of memory quilt. So I've just moved my sewing machine to one side, and I'm going to take my pinking shears here, and I'm going to just take off the excess between the squares. So I've got a big run here to start to cut, and I'm leaving a seam allowance of about 1.5 centimetres here, and some of them are a little bit tricky because you're going through about 4 pieces of fabric, but I'm still cutting away here, and I'm just cutting this off. For me, when I'm making my quilts, I find that this is a really good way of finishing my quilts, because I don't want to use a overlocker, and I don't really want to use a zigzag stitch on my machine, because I just don't want that extra bulkage on my quilt. So for me, using a pair of pinking shears and giving that crisp zigzag finish to my project really does work. So just on the last piece now, and this one here, I'm just cutting that away. I love that sound. Okay, and that's given me that really crisp zigzag finish on my seam. The next step is to put the backing on this, and that will mean that I have to stitch all the way around to make a big bag. So my quilt is all finished now. I just want to share how I finished it. So I put the backing on to my front of my quilt, and I stitched it all the way around and made a little bit of a bag. I then made a hem for it, so I put, and I'm going to bring this to the camera, I've got my hem here that I put on this. I also thought about how I would fasten it, and originally I was thinking about putting buttons on it, but I thought that bows, 2 ribbons, would look really cute and perfect for the girls. This has got a little bit of a zigzagging stitching on, some really tiny zigzag stitching just to reinforce it and make sure that it's kiddie proof too. Inside of my quilt I have put a fleece blanket. This was just a $2.99 fleece blanket from Home Bargains, and again I can change that if I need to. So I doubled it up and I put it into my quilt, so it's definitely sleepover proof and definitely kiddie proof too. I also had enough space on my transfer to do about 6 of my youngest drawings, and these will be on a little memory quilt for her. So I'm so delighted that I could squeeze those on. So I'm actually going to get 2 memory quilts out of my one 55 by 55 transfer. So a few hints and tips for this project. First of all, in the software, use the green bar when you're putting your artwork on. Look at the size of it, double check the size of them, and the green bar on the left hand side of your artwork is invaluable. So for example, I've got these cute little logos here, and these little logos wouldn't go any bigger than this because the green bar on the left hand side of the screen was telling me this was the size. Secondly, use greaseproof paper if you're using a conventional iron or you're using a craft iron for your project. I had a go without, and some of them did unfortunately curl around the edges. And finally, if you are using a conventional iron or a craft iron, as I was using my Cricut mini press, make sure you do get that strong lean on the transfer. Do take your time on that, and that will make sure that it will stick onto your project. And finally, don't throw away this invaluable information that comes with your transfer. It tells you how long you need to use a iron or a heat press to ensure that your transfer has maximum adherence to your fabric. I hope you find these hints and tips useful. And that's how I made my quilt. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you've enjoyed and I've inspired you to use the HappyFabric transfers. And I will see you in my next video. Right, okay, I'm going to lead you now. I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to hold your hand. And I'm going to lead you up here. It's okay. Stand there and take your eye mask off. That's all of your artwork that I've put on a quilt.
Mommy, is there one for me?
You're a good girl.
Thank you.
Hey, what do you think?
It's really nice.